America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and I'm going to explain to you right now why Democratic white women, Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson all disbelieve in gender equality. And it's not obvious that that's the case. It's a little bit more obvious with Fuentes and Carlson, or it might not be more obvious, but it's more acceptable to say that they don't believe in gender equality. It's less acceptable to say that the No Kings crowd and Democratic white women in general don't believe in gender equality. But a fascinating thing happened when I watched the Fuentes and Carlson interview. If you've watched me, you know that I'm a little bit bullish on Nick Fuentes. I actually think I've been saying so for a few years now that he's the one to watch. All the other losers don't read, and they're not particularly smart. He's one who gets the game and actually is one you should watch. Even if you don't agree with his content, it's hard to deny the saliency of many of his arguments because he was the one who, is out there before it was cool to say that we owe too much to Israel. We're a little bit too solicitous of Israel's concerns, especially if you consider yourself to be America first. And since I do consider myself to be America first, even if I define the constitutive aspects of America differently than Fuentes does, I knew that was going to be a powerful argument because he's right. Like, if you are America first, which I am, you should not be taking Netanyahu's calls first, right? We should not be participating in propping up an apartheid state. In my estimation, he wouldn't have a problem with the apartheid state. He would have a problem with other aspects of Israel. But I'm going to talk to you right now about an aspect of Fuentes and Carlson's debate that caught me. Because at first, and it's a 2-hour long interview, at first I was worried because they were against porn. I'm against porn. They were against gambling. I'm against gambling. They were against, they think feminism makes women unaccountable. I think feminism makes also imports a quality of unaccountability into women in their not just political but social and family responsibilities. So I'm worried. I was worried for the first hour and 50 minutes that the left was completely cooked because Fuentes and Carlson were understood that there's a problem in families. There's a problem with working class jobs. There's a problem with pornography. There's a problem with gambling. There's a problem with feminism. There are all these problems that liberals don't have either the skill or the gumption. There's a problem with Israel. There's nothing. There's a problem like borders matter. Borders allow us to be different than people who are not us. They allow us to be in us. If you don't appreciate that, then a lot of people don't appreciate that, get their usness from other things. So I'm always a little bit suspicious of deeply religious people who don't believe in borders because they get their religious particularity from their particular religion, whether you're Jewish or a particular kind of Christian. It's easy not to give them borders if you don't understand yourself as really American, but as a Mormon or as a blank and blank, as a blanket, as a Jew, so me who considers themselves as an American need there to be American borders so that we can distinguish ourselves as Americans from people who are not Americans, and they are free to distinguish themselves through political means as other than us in their own way. The borders allow us to each do our own thing, which is part of freedom. To the ability to do your own thing and decide and chart the course of your thingness. So Fuentes and Carlson get borders in the way liberals don't. And I'm going to tell you, the one thing that gave me hope that, okay, we can beat the right is that the last 10 minutes while they definitely maneuvered around their racism, saying that, their Christianity is distinguished, disallows their variety of racism. And that's what they said, but it wasn't particularly, it was sufficiently convincing. So I'm like, you're not going to get them on the white supremacist aspect. Although Fuentes has openly said that this is a white nation. And if that's not white supremacist, it's a white American supremacist. right? You don't have to say that like white people are better than non-white people, but you can say that if you're going to be an American, it's better to, like, you should have more say as a white American than a not a white American, which I disagree with. And that is a problem. I think that's going to be a problem, but it's going to be a problem that they succeeded in kind of skirting around. They succeed in skirting around. The problem they're not going to succeed in skirting around is gender in the family. Gender in the family, they screw up. Because they're on that, like, women need to be seen and not heard, and, men have final responsibility. And the problem with feminism is that it complicated the responsibility of men and women, and that's the problem. All right, so that's going to be the way in which the family, if the left gets the arguments about the family right in a way that respects gender equality, it will undermine Fuentes, it'll undermine Carlson, but it'll also undermine a lot of them white women who want the right to be bad at doing family. Like liberal white women are the worst parents in the United States. I'll say this again, and I'll say this clearly. Liberal white women are the worst parents in the United States. They have the most and screw up the most, and they have so much money that they can pay for all of their screw ups, but they have the most, and they would be better off, a lot of them, if they at least listened to their baby daddies, right? Liberal white women are the worst parents in the United States. They could take a kid who's born on third base and still not get that kid home, right? So we're talking about the worst parents in the United States because they don't want to take accountability. They don't want to they want the quality of feminism. They want the quality of feminine identity that says that they're naturally good at parenting without the quality of feminism that says that they actually have to, like, outcomes matter, right? So you want the responsibility without any of the authority, and that means you really don't want the responsibility. Oh, you want the authority without any of the responsibility. So, and accountability that comes with the responsibility. And this is not just white women in the family. It turns out they screw up everything that they take over, right? One of the reasons we can't get better with public schools is that goes through liberal white women, and you can't tell them anything because to do so would be misogynist. So the kids don't read, and we can't talk to the teachers about the kids learning how to read and do math. And there's a way in which the history of feminism is a movement out of the Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes variety into the Dem Karen variety, who still takes all of the presumed irrationality. Because remember, Fuentes and Carlson thinks women are justifiably or naturally irrational and kind of inscrutable. I, as distinct from them, think that they're perfectly rational. We've just in the United States allowed a culture and incentivized a culture that shields them from accountability. So they lean into that shield from accountability. So we have dingbats. The Democratic Party is run by dingbats who have an entitlement to be dingbats. You go into any resist or no king meeting, you have to deal with the dingbats. And they'll be well-educated, well-credentialed dingbats. Their eyes will glaze over when you talk about labor policy. Their eyes will glaze over when you talk about real, serious reparative justice with respect to racial justice, but and jobs. But they are dingbats, right? And they feel entitled to be dingbats, which is unfortunate because we've made a society around white men who could build things and their wives and daughters who are allowed to be dingbats. And those are the two parties. And as a black man, I feel like a spectator sport in American politics because I really can't have any real power or influence over either of those communities. I can just kind of articulate the problem with a modified impunity because of you supporting my show. That means I don't have to depend on a job from a dingbat. And they are all over. They are all over academia. Well-credentialed dingbats, but dingbats all the same. You know them by their Ruth Bader Ginsburg appreciation. Nothing. So white lady dingbats, and I don't have to worry about, the Fuenteses. So I live because of you. And if you appreciate what I do, you should go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. And if you're a woman, you should do so too, because I believe that you are rationally equal. I think you deserve equal responsibility And I think you deserve equal accountability. And none of those other people do. None of those other people think you can be accountable as if you were a man. I think you can. I am in the political minority who says that you can be accountable as if you were a man, and that you're responsible as if you're a man. You can do math as if you're a man. You can do all of those things. And it's the dem women. It's the dem dingbat women who do not believe that you can take a debate. that you can take the rigors of antagonistic politics. It's the dem dingbat women who actually protect women, who think that women need to be protected from guys like me. Right? I actually think that I have a real equality. I actually think anything with the mind, and most things with the body, now that I'm getting old, any women can do as well as I can do. And I think the most dangerous and pernicious influence against that on the Democratic Party is professional class white women who want both the responsibility of, who've been promised almost the responsibility of being a man without any of the accountability. And that is the problem. That is the problem. So the Republicans deal with this by restricting what women can do. They're like, well, we can't hold you accountable for doing this thing, so like we're just not going to let you do this thing. And the Democrats deal with it by just ignoring their incompetence at doing the thing, right? So this is why we gave up on public education. We know that these white women aren't teaching anyone to read, anyone to read. So we'll just give up on it. We'll just give up. Well, it's okay. It's okay. And we'll allow women to do all of the things. And then when they screw up, we'll just organize the world so that it won't matter anymore. And we'll just ignore. We'll ignore the fact that they screwed up the Democratic Party. We'll ignore the fact that they screw up families. Like I said, liberal white women are the worst parents in the United States. They're screwing up families left and right. All these kids who honestly get beaten by my kids in anything that it requires them doing anything. It's liberal moms. Liberal moms don't know how to discipline their kids. And so from family to civil society, although they're pretty good middle managers, but like they're not building bosses, or they're not building. They're the middle. They're in the middle. They're working for some white guy who's telling them what to do, and so they're not necessarily screwing up civil society in that way, as long as you keep them in the middle management. And then they'll also where there's no accountability, where you just do what you're told without actually like. Don't expect them to organize a union. One of the reasons we have a labor, we have a labor problem in the United States is that if like we need women to organize unions, and they're bad at it. They're bad at it because it takes a lot of risk and it takes a lot of responsibility and it takes a lot of like leadership that they think they should just be able to get out of. So if you want anything like adventurous like that done. Yeah, unfortunately, in the United States, you need to get a man to do it because of the way we enculturate women into not thinking they have to do those kinds of things. And so that's a problem. That is a problem. You can say, well, there are lots of women labor organizers who are women. Yeah, that's why the labor movement is in such a bad way. Right? Like, they're not doing it very well, and we don't, like, Randy Weingarten should be taken out so easily. And like, there's no way she should be head of the teachers. And we don't have the mechanism to do that. We don't even have the mechanism. They're screwing up politics. Democratic Party is trash into the future because nobody can tell professional class women that like they're bad at politics or that what they want doesn't always carry the day. Right? We're okay with Elizabeth Warren saying that calling Bernie Sanders a sexist just because it was convenient for her at that moment. There was no pushback for that. There was no disciplining of her for that. There should have been, and there should be. We're okay with her taking super PAC money, $17 million from a feminist. I think it's closer to $20 million from a feminist after pledging not to take super PAC money just because she really wanted the money. Yeah, that's why they call it money. But also, if it was so easy to say no, then it wouldn't be a problem. So when you say no, you have to stick with it. But no, it was more convenient for her to take the money, so she took the money. Right? And there's no pushback for that. There's no pushback for Nancy Pelosi refusing to take debates for the next 30 years. There's no pushback for Dianne Feinstein going brain dead in office because we protect her from an antagonistic process. Politics, running for office, should be a controlled antagonistic process, kind of like prize fighting, where you make yourself up the ranks. You should have to prove yourself through many debates, ongoing to sustain the office. There should be 3 mandatory debates every election cycle with someone who wants to take your job. But we don't do that in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is anti-debate. The Democratic Party is anti-debate because it might hurt women's feelings, and it's an antagonistic process, and we like people to be nice because we feminize the party. And you know what? The GOP gets stronger because they haven't feminized their party. So this professional class of white women takes their entitlement to be coddled into every aspect of their life, from family life to civil society to politics. And on the GOP side, they say, well, we should restrict, what women are able to do. And on the Democratic side, it said we shouldn't restrict what women are able to do. We are just going to pretend that their screw-ups don't matter. The fact that they've screwed up humanities education so that we want to cut the whole thing. People are cutting entire humanities departments because of the feminization of the departments. Because to go to college is to go and learn about all the ways in which women are sugar and spice and everything nice, and men are all the problems. Like whole colleges are getting taken out because like we allowed feminism to take all of the stink off of anything that has to do with women. We could have had interesting gender studies over the last 30 years. We could have had fascinating gender studies over the last 30 years. Instead, we had feminism. Because feminism is what you do when you get gender studies, but you assume that women are right about everything. You can quote me on that. I think I'll pull that out and put that in a different reel. Feminism is what you get when you do gender studies, but you assume that women are right about everything. And it's made everything that they get in charge of like worse, because sometimes you might need to listen to men about something. Maybe. Sometimes, and you can't tell mothers that, you can't tell boss babes that in civil society, and you can't tell women politicians that. And that is unfortunate. And I have no problem going the other way. Men, sometimes you should listen to women. I don't think that's not controversial. The other side on the left, the other side is controversial. Women would do better if they listened to men. Wives would do better if they listened to their husbands. Girlfriends would do better if they listened to their boyfriends. Female colleagues would do better if they listened to their male colleagues. And politics all the way down. And all the way down. And the illusion that women naturally know everything shields them from accountability because we want to protect them. The moment we stop protecting women is the moment our politics gets less confusing. The divisions don't go away, but we'll be less confused about why it's the case. I don't know why Trump won. That is confusion. That's either feigned confusion or he got the popular vote after beating Clinton. Like in 2016. So like you got the popular vote in 2020. Like if you don't know, 2024. So if you don't know how he won, you're just not paying attention. And if you're allowed to say that in public, you're just not a serious person. You're just not a serious person. By the way, if you appreciate what I'm doing and how I'm speaking, go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. Because I'm telling you the minority opinion on gender in the United States, which is that women are equal and are rational and should be held accountable as such. Tucker, Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and the dingbats and the No King parades, they all agree that women should get a special dispensation for being irrational. Now, the dispensation looks different. Tucker Carlson says, yes, they're irrational and they're inscrutable, but one of the virtues of nature is that you love them anyway. Nick Fuentes says they just need to go back to just making a sandwich and let men do the job. The Karens say something different. Yes, they're irrational, and you shouldn't hold them accountable, but we just need to allow them to screw up all of the institutions, because the institutions don't really matter. And they're under the illusion that the institutions don't matter, because for all of their lives, men have actually been sustaining those institutions, right? So they let them screw up the family. They let them screw up civil society, and they let them screw up politics. And this is why we have a Democratic Party that's screwed up. This is why, there aren't enough women who build, like liberals and leftists who build things. And also, this is why families are screwed up. And families are actually very important right now, because I have a theory that with this advanced stage of modernism and capitalism, family is more important than anything else. And it's more indeterminate right now. How you run your family matters. I might do a whole show about that, about how like this is a time of indeterminacy, and where the scripts you have to throw them out and make your own script, and whoever makes the better script better family script wins. Like I invest a lot in my kids. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going all in on my kids. And I think that's the appropriate bet. And I'm not just talking about time. I'm talking about time and also attention and thought. This is the time where like people who go in all in on their kids, you're going to see a huge difference between those kids and people who kind of let AI or the algorithm run their kids. There's going to be a huge difference in 10 years, because the scripts are more perfidious, and there are more stakes, right? Well, Stefan says, will you write a book on family formation? I am slowly writing a dissertation against no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce is a form of normalized child abuse, because I think no-fault divorce is a form of child abuse. This whole split custody thing is child abuse, and you're saying you have irreconcilable differences, but you expect them to be reconciled in the mind of your child. That is ridiculous. Patrick playing piano says, I saw a woman in a podcast say the number one determination for if a child is raised well is how happy the mother is. No, the number one determination of if the mother is happy is how happy the mother is. Like, that's like, mothers, that's just because angry mothers, they don't have to be rationally angry. They can be irrationally angry. They make life hell on everybody. Right? So this idea of happy wife, happy life could be just if we assume that the happy wife is happy for rational reasons. But like if the happiness of the family depends on like coddling the irrational sensibilities of the mother, that is a false happiness, kind of like a sugar high, which isn't the same as like the high of eating a good meal, but still feels good. So, but it's like, it's less stable in an important way. So you need to think about it. By the way, once again, if you appreciate what I'm saying, go to www.funkyacademic.com. I'm giving you the minority opinion on gender in the United States, because both the Dems and the GOP think that women are irrational, and that like that's okay. Nobody wants to hold women accountable. It's like holding women accountable might be less popular than Gaza. Like saving the genocide in Gaza. It's easier to get support for Palestinian people than it is to get support for holding women accountable, because it'll be so countercultural. It'll be so countercultural if we actually treat women like men in public spaces. Like, that is, and I think that's what needs to happen if we're going to live a just world, right? If we want the Nick Fuentes world or the Tucker Carlson world, we're just going to have to, keep women out of certain professions that we think matters. Or if we want the Dem world, we let women in those professions, and then we just try to ignore what happens when those institutions falter, right? So I'm going to give you a material story and then a cultural story. The material story is that, a lot of guys, and honestly, a lot of white guys, like designed and sustained and built the United States. Well, they designed and sustained it, but they like some working class white guys built it too. A lot of black people built it. And they designed and sustained some. Yeah, they built a lot, right? But they designed and sustained some. But I don't mock the Irish and Italian Masons and all of that stuff, who actually like physically the roofers and all of that stuff who built the United States. And then I don't mock the slaves who actually like designed implements and maintained them. I don't mock them. A lot of those were men though, right? So they know what it took to actually design and sustain that world, right? Then feminists come in. They think they know what it takes to design and sustain that world. And as it falls apart, they're just kind of like, they wash their hands of it. They wash their hands of it. And it could be strategic. It could be strategic. We only let them in to arenas where the stakes were low. So it's okay that they like screwed it up. The education of black children. And we thought the family was safe because they didn't figure out that like now kids need to be raised. This gets tricky because now kids need to be raised. And so women's incompetence or inability to be held accountable in raising their family like matters in the raising of the kids. I even think fathers are the better like raisers of daughters. It's not just women are bad at raising sons. It's that culture of unaccountability is bad for like daughters. They don't raise very good daughters. All right. So that is a material side of like a lot of people are in positions that they don't know the stakes of in leadership positions, and they don't know the stakes of their screw up, and we just let them screw up. This could be like the teachers union and stuff like that. Like public education in general, I think is a great example. But there are other examples. Apparently laws becoming that way. But like we need to actually discuss what that means. And now there's a cultural story, right? So in the United States, we have a very peculiar variety of womanhood. The feminists will tell you that it's universal, and the hardcore paleoconservatives will tell you that it's universal, but it's actually very particular. Women across the United States, women across the world are not like women in the United States. That's not like, some are worse, some are better, but they're different based on their historical trajectory. We designed our gender story based on our colonial aspirations. We needed a variety of womanhood that was vulnerable to Native American rape and torture so that we now have a reason to exterminate Native Americans. And then after the Civil War, we needed a variety of womanhood who could enter into civil society, but was still vulnerable to the wiles of outgroup men, which are black men after the Civil War, so that now we license a police force that is designed to control black men and like do whatever they want to black people and black communities. So we have a gender story that's subordinate and conform to the racial aspirations of colonial America, right? So the variety of womanhood that we think of as universal, if you're American, and since white women only think about themselves, they think about their situation as like the universe. We have a variety of womanhood that was particularly designed to be particularly useless in a very particular way and vulnerable in a very particular way. We have a feminism that emerged out of that world, right? So we made women useless in a very particular way. And of course, when you're useless in a very particular way, we have to bar you from like offices that matter, right? So we had a feminism that got women in those offices that matter without inculcating a culture of accountability. So now they feel like the right to be useless in all of these offices that matter, right? Screwing up arguably not women priests women pastors are screwing up the church, but the feminization of the church is screwing up the church, right? The idea is that, pastors don't have to be good at their jobs, don't have to be serious people. It's screwing up the church. And can't be held accountable for not being serious people. It's screwing up the church. And that is a part of the feminization of the church. And so that is the No Kings group. And like I said, now that families matter more than they have probably in any other time in history in America, families matter. We need to be. Are you going? All right. I gotta go. Thank you for your time. I think my kids are calling, so I'm gonna go take care of that because that's important. And I will talk to you at another time. Peace. Yeah.